So the way that YouTube works is when you do a series with numbers like that, like part one, part two, you get a ton of views on the first one and the very, very last one. People don't generally watch the middle portion. And so you're going to be missing a ton of context for what we're talking about here. I decided that I was going to play a game and keep a physical journal of things that I learned about the game, things that happened in the game, and just kind of go out of my way to connect dots and really deeply enjoy the game. So this is part 30. I'm not done with the game, but I'm done making videos for the game right now. And so we're checking in on how did it go? Was it super great and improved my experience? Or was it performative bullshit that's kind of a waste of time? I think, no surprise to anyone, it's a little bit of both. So first, let's talk about what ended up in the journal for the first 30 parts. There's going to be more as I play, but this is kind of the stuff that made it in just initially. This is not every page in the book. It's just the stuff that made it into the index. We've got world generation, death log, items, surface copper sightings, hunting strategies, bestiary, farming, temperatures, timers, fishing, farm plan, chiseling, mining, caves, and translocators. So most of these are not filled out super in depth. They were just things that were helpful at the time. World generation is the stats that I used to generate the world. This has already come in handy. As I start the succession play, I need to generate a world that I like, and knowing that it was 60, 75, 300 is good. The embark and day one journal entries, I'm going to read them just because it's nice to reminisce. I begin in a foggy valley. It is -5°C, snowing, and any landmark is obscured by trees. I head downhill to escape the cold. I reach the coast, but the rain is still too thick to find the sun. I travel with it on my right side. A wolf guards the path jealously. I've been unable to find much workable stone. I saw surface copper up on the mountain near spawn. I will try the other path with the coast on my left. So that was our embarkation message, which now that I'm thinking back to, it was maybe actually asked backwards. Because Sandtrap, we traveled with it it was a whole thing. Anyway, the left-hand path did not prove much better. I did manage to get out of the rain and find a relatively safe sandy outcropping. It is here that I will spend the night. There's much to hunt, but I must struggle through the night on common morel. I've dug the world's worst pitfall trap, but no game dares near it. In the morning, I will equip myself for proper hunting. And then if you look here at the bottom, something I like to do on the first night is do my assets. This is everything I had in the world and just kind of the state of things. I was unable to find clay. I was unable to find anything actually useful, and I was dying and starving. You'll notice there's no real food on that list. So having little reminders like that of how it went, I actually do like that. I am glad that I did the journal entries themselves. But what about the other things that I tracked, like the death log, which is next in the book? So far, we have died 37 times. Many of them from Wolf in Water. This is interesting to me because you feel like Wolf in Water kills you the most. And then you actually read the data, and it's like, actually, grizzly bears have killed you the most. Well, it's interesting to me. But even the death log tells a story, really, because you can come in here and you can see that 3 or 4 things are back to back in such a way that they show what happened. So, like, Tainted Bowtorn, Temporal Storm. Tainted Drifter, same Temporal Storm, at spawn. Grizzly Bear, Dark, Spawn, Temporal Storm. That was a really shitty night that I remember, because I tried to kill myself that Naked Caving Suicide, Surface Shiver in House, 5 back-to-back Grizzly Bears. This is one way of telling my story. Now, the items section, I chose not to do every item in the game because there is already a handbook. It already has a ton of good information. It's not necessary or interesting. It doesn't reflect where my mind is at while playing the game. That would be performative bullshit. So instead, I wrote down things that I needed to remember, and the act of writing it down helps me remember. So, unnappable stones, conglomerate stones, shale, claystone. Every time I found these, I'm like, oh, can I make a tool? And no, you fucking can't. Then conversions, because I'm really bad at math. And I wanted to know, like, how many friggin' fibers do I need to make a linen bag? So, on the items page, you can see that it's mostly conversions. It's like, how much flax is a twine, is a fiber, is a linen, whatever, right? And there's also logs to firewood, clay oven, how much fire clay do I need? That's not the right number at all. So, not everything's correct. And under bony soil, these are the things that I found. Unfortunately, we only ever found like 3 bony soil. So we didn't like actually get good data on that yet. We'll get more in the future, but I just want to know what can it drop. And I could look at the wiki for that, but this is way more fun for me. At the bottom for smithing, writing down that it's 18 copper and 2 cassiterite is like so valuable for me. It's crazy. Now, I was playing Vintage Story without a map. Normally the game has a map, a fully colored map that you can like mark things and zoom in on. You can see like where the red clay is, and it's very easy to get around. When you die, there's a marker on your mini map that tells you where to go to get your stuff. But I was playing without it. And so when I found copper, I couldn't just collect it and then mark it on the map and go back and dig there. I had to physically mark the area or leave the copper there. I also had to find my way back to the area. So I started doing descriptions of where it was. And that's what the surface copper sightings page was. Is like somewhere near spawn, south of Sandtrap, on conglomerate gravel, on the edge of shale, cave between conglomerate flowers and archway. And those words don't really mean anything, except that I drew this super sick map here in the back. So we started out, where are we? We're here. Yeah, so I started with this triangle. That was the only thing on here. I'm like, okay, well, what do I know in relation to this? There's an ocean. We found the conglomerate sands was that way, right? I didn't know what the continent looked like. I didn't know how far anything was. But I knew that relative to Sandtrap, conglomerate sands was forward, right? And then from conglomerate sands, if you went this way, you would get to the shale. And then we just kind of used this relative marking, and sometimes it was wrong, to say where things were. All of this is actually conglomerate sands, just with more detail. So first there's this little flower patch as you come out of Sandtrap, and then you go further and there's a crystal cave, and then there's some more flowers, and then we built like a hut over here, and there's a ruin up there, and our actual house was around here somewhere. And then there was this mountain that we called Two Peaks, and spawn was relative to Twin Peaks, like down here. So we could triangulate spawn, Two Peaks, and Sandtrap to get some kind of bearing on where things were. But again, no map. How do you say where things are? Now that is a frustrating experience for some people, but I loved it. I think it's great. I actually struggle to play with a map at this point. I will do it if other people are more comfortable with it, but like, I think having to mark things visually and having to figure out where things are in relation to each other and describing things with words, giving things names, I think all of that enhances the experience dramatically. If you haven't played Vintage Story without a map, do it. So Hunting Strategies was a page dedicated to things I heard about or thought about that may help me hunt game, like to get food, to hunt animals specifically, but also things I just wanted to try and combat. So animal pit, 2x2 for most animals, 3x3 for bears. Initially, I made my pits too big, and then I was like trying to chase these animals around these big pits, and that was really annoying. So using the appropriate size pit made a big difference. I wrote some notes about like improvised armor made a big difference in getting hit by a deer or a sheep, but low durability. You only get like 1-2 hits before you're screwed. The wooden club is something that I was skeptical about at first, but someone on Reddit was like, this is the best item in the game. And damned if he wasn't right. I'm so glad I went back and tried it because it was amazing. So the things that I really made a point of testing were shield, torch, jumping over a boar, interrupting the wolf lunge, and the club. The club was awesome. I never actually tried interrupting the wolf lunge. I've done some things close to it, but not on purpose. We haven't tested it, so I haven't marked it off yet. We did successfully jump over a boar a bunch of times. 6 strategy, just jump the boar. Torch sucked balls. Torch was friggin' worthless. I don't know who said, oh, they're gonna set things on fire. It's worthless. Use the club. You will kill it with the club way faster than with the torch. Shield was useful for the little monkey guys, the drifters. When they throw the rocks, you can just ignore it by hitting shift, but I didn't try it for hunting. I want to try it for fighting wolves and see if it's actually helpful there. The bestiary turned out to be mostly performative bullshit. It's actually an index to other pages with specifics for each animal. I intend to at some point doodle the animals, the drifters, and just like draw them and have like a nice page with whatever HP I figure out they have, which I figured out I can do if I put them in a box and then I throw rocks at them. Rocks do 1 HP. So I should be able to figure out what they've got with rocks. But that's beside the point. The point is I started like tracking drops, and it seems like the weight differences don't matter. And even if they did, like, what am I going to do about it? And then additionally, they don't have that many stats, and I don't have any real reason to use a lower tier thing, right? Like once I have a copper spear, am I ever going to not just use my current weapon however many hits it takes? So really, most of the work I did on those pages, performative bullshit. But I will say that we figured out it was unnecessary by doing it, so like kind of necessary to find out that it's unnecessary. Farming. This is by far my most used page. This is the page I spent most of my time on. Most of what we've done has been trying to figure out the farming system. Figure out what any of these stats even mean. Figure out, do nutrients come back? How fast do things grow in low fertility soil versus medium fertility soil? And like, when to plant things. Does it matter? How much is the heat penalty, the cold penalty? Things die. Like, all of that's on a wiki somewhere. Don't care, this is more fun. And we actually learned a lot by tracking things. By writing things down, we learned, I think, our farming next year will actually be so much better as a result of doing this testing and taking these notes. Temperature log. Not worthless. It's going to come in handy next year, but I forgot to get the highs pretty much every month. I just never look at the temperature in the middle of the day because you think it's going to, because you always think it's going to get higher, right? You're like, oh man, it's not quite the time yet. And then you don't end up writing anything down. Kind of like when it's getting lower and lower, it doesn't get to its lowest low till like 2:30 in the morning. So if it's 2 and you're like, oh, -17, you should just write that down because that is the lowest you've seen. But you're like, oh, I'll write it down when I get there. And then you don't. You don't check it again and then you don't write anything down. So for these months, I have no idea what the range of temperatures is. Eventually, I moved a lot of this information into the journal entries themselves, but I should move it back onto this page down here at the very bottom. So you can see November 8th is when I actually put my warm clothes on because it wasn't cold enough before that to really need them. I have some other notes in here, like as the seasons changed, what days did I notice it? And, you know, like our first hard freeze, for example, is in the journal entries somewhere. For these journal entries, you can see that once in a while I doodled something, pretty much just whatever I was looking at the moment. And I like doing that. I'm just so bad artistically that I don't always know how to draw what's in front of me. So if I just do it more, I'm sure it will improve. But some interesting things come as a result of doing this. In this image, you can see that the sun is setting to the right of Two Peaks. This is from our house's perspective before we got the roof on and stuff. Those little ruins on the bottom right are the ones down by the rabbit pen. But in the winter, the sun actually sets way the fuck over here. There's a significant movement that we know about because we paid attention to where it went down. There's also this passage in the mountains. This is a terrible picture, but these two streams come out of opposite sides and then kind of almost reach each other, but I thought it'd be cooler if it looked like they were swirling together. So that actually helped us find our way in the mountains because we took the time to stop and remember that location. We were able to not get lost in the mountains like the next day. Timers has not been super important in a while. It was very helpful those first couple of days when I was waiting 20 hours for stuff that was urgent. It really helped us figure out that cattails took a month to harvest, and I think it will be useful in the future. But for right now, everything just kind of takes as long as it takes, and we're passing more days than we're using, so hasn't been relevant in a minute. So, for example, this is my raccoons page. That's not helpful to anybody. If there was a cute picture of a raccoon, then maybe. Now, fishing in Vintage Story, there are specific baits that let you catch specific types at specific ponds. I have done virtually no fishing, so there's not actually anything useful here yet. I do think it'll be useful once we start fishing. More journal entries. Farm plan, just kind of working out how I want to design it, that sort of thing, and then also calculating what I need to build it was good to have. Could have been scrap paper, but I kind of like having it here because it's something that we did end up building. The current barn plan. I have a page here for chiseling, but the only thing on it is how many blocks you can knock out before water goes through. I don't know what else chiseling wise will ever go here, so maybe a wasted page, but I know I'll be glad I have this note at some point. Mining. Now we've done minimal prospecting, but knowing where to find things, because again, in normal Vintage Story, you have a map that shows what you've prospected. Like if you find ultra high native copper, there's just going to be a mark on your map that says, hey, you found ultra high native copper here. But without the map, how do you remember? So the couple of places that we prospected and dug, we listed them, and I'm glad that we did that. We have not gone deep into caves yet, but there are 3 main caves that we have kind of explored a little bit. The Crystal Cave was totally empty. It's good to know that so we don't waste our time going back in there once we do start caving. White Wolf Cave, we thought was going to be deeper and cooler. It was just borax. Chalk Cave, we have not reached the bottom of yet. We've only found 1 translocator. And knowing where that is will eventually be very helpful. I would not want to try to remember where all the translocators are. We'll be able to add details to that as well once we figure out where it goes. And that's it. That brings us to February 5th. So there's not that much in this journal. We're about 42 pages in. If we divorce the journal from the specific game, if we say this could be any game and not just Vintage Story, the things that I felt were maybe most worthwhile were the journal entries themselves, for sure. The death log, I like. Hunting strategies is an interesting one that I would probably try in any game, where I want to list tactics that I want to try specifically and then how they go. And then if there is a way to turn off a map in other games, I would probably do that from here on because it's just too much fun. I'm really glad that I have a physical thing here. I do think the actual act of writing on a physical journal has been fundamentally different from digital. I started to kind of test drive this project with digital journals. There's a mod that does a really good journal for Vintage Story. There are other programs that I tried. I tried just Encritta, and I tried this dedicated journaling software. I also tried Vim, which is where I do most of my text notes. I do a lot of work in there, so I thought maybe that would be the most fluid. But something about getting out of the game for a minute and just writing and kind of living up here made a big difference. So the worst part of the journaling was definitely having to stop the game to write things down. I did a lot more pausing in this session than I normally do. I don't think it would be a problem to play on like a multiplayer server and just do it at night, but you would definitely not have the exact data in the way that I do for like the animals that I harvested and that kind of thing. You probably wouldn't stop to do that right there all the time. I would say in most games, most RPGs, you could just journal once a night and it would be fine. It's okay to forget some things or be hazy because that's how journals work. This journal is not in character because we're not doing like any kind of role play. We're just playing the game normally. And that just varies from game to game. Sometimes I role play, sometimes I don't. Kind of depends on the game. And Vintage Story is not... I don't know the lore well enough to like make a character that fits and stuff. Nothing speaks to me in a lore way. Like I don't super care about like the machines or seraphs or I don't know. None of it like gets me hot, so I don't bother. Also, it's a little disheartening to have a page like the raccoon page where you have one note, but much like with the map with Sandtrap just starting as a triangle, you have to start somewhere and you don't know what will be important later. Like especially if you haven't played the game before. There's no way to know what data you're going to wish you had from the whole time. So it's really important just write things down. Just things. And I don't mind that too much, but it does leave you with some lackluster pages like the raccoon page. So the verdict. I do think that journals will be something I'll be doing more of in the future. I'm going to try to find another game that's suitable, although I think any game is really suitable technically. If you have the budget, and only if you have the budget, because like this, absolutely fine. Having a good time, happy with this thing that I have. But something like this feels so good in the hand, feels rad to journal in, you know? Part of me wishes I had gone with a more robust journal, but there's just no way to know when you're starting a game. There's no way to know that you're going to stick with it when you start a game. And so dropping more than 50 cents on something like this can feel pretty bad when you get one page in and then you're like, this game kind of sucks. I'm actually not going to play it. So maybe there's an argument to be made where I copy the best parts of this into this, and then I just keep this. Things to think about. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I hope you have some concept of what the hell a game journal is, because we're going to be doing more of them.